I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, this is a meeting of the Lincoln County Commission, regular session on October 4th, 2018. Members present are Darrell Baker, County Clerk, Vicki Harless, and Charles Vance, Commissioners. The first item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of the last regular meeting that was held on September 6th. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes? Have a motion, I'll second that. All in favor, aye. Okay, under public comment, we have several people signed in to speak. We have the Hamlin Neighborhood Watch under discussion, so if you all don't mind, I'll let the other people speak, and then when we get to that, you all can talk then. First, we have Barb McComas about water. Do you want to start, Barb? And we haven't seen you in a while, Barb.
I didn't think I'd have to come back over here. But you know what, I just found out that the water is supposed to be finished in 19 January. And you know what? You told me we'd be the next one to get water. Well, they've been working down there since about May or somewhere around that. And now they ain't even dug a ditch down towards my way at all. And listen, we can't go another winter without water, clean drinking water. Now my husband fell in a shower trying to take a pan and pour water over top of him so that you can take a bath.
Well, I think it's still on target as far as I know, Lisa.
Yeah, next year, January next year.
Well, I mean, that's when it'll be complete. It should be completed. You are in phase one, so you're going to get it this time.
Yeah, I'm gonna get it, but how we gonna get water this winter?
Well, it
My
should-
husband just, when he fell, he broke his collarbone, and he can't do nothing, and I just got off of a walker. And how's people like us supposed to get water?
Lisa, can you give us a little update on where it's at? I know he's kind of.
Yes, I can. We'll be able to.
I have five, this is the 5th year I have been over here, and it's gonna start in March. When the weather breaks, it's gonna start in March. Every year. When the weather breaks, it's gonna start in March. And you know what? And our water started in 2008, and it's been amended, it's been canceled twice, and it was amended once, and when y'all were telling us that we were gonna get water, it hadn't even been amended yet.
I mean, they're definitely working on it.
I know they're working on it when if the sun shines real good, they're having to dig up too much stuff and redo it again.
And you are in phase one, so.
It don't help me get water, but they need to I heard they got another project.
They don't. Rick Roberts was just in my office, I promise, Barbara, just in there
Well,
this week. I've got a big drawing. You're on the first phase, because I look for a.
I know
Mr.
I'm in
King.
the first phase, but we don't have water. They don't hardly work down there. It's been 3 weeks since they even went on down through there digging a ditch.
Well, I don't know when their schedule is, but I know that it's, I made sure, I looked on that thing to make sure, because I was looking for Mr. King. You know, somebody with the last name King down through, I think he's on Big Buffalo.
Yeah, George King.
Okay, so he was in, so we were done, he gave me a big drawing, and I said for sure, I said, are you all finished, or are you still going? And he said, we're still going.
Listen, I have been over here. I have showed everybody. I have sent stuff everywhere. It's cost me a fortune. There's not one politician will do nothing, but they sure want you to vote for them. They want you to do something for them. And Manson wouldn't help. He would not help. I called his office and I sent him a letter. And what he done was, he wouldn't do nothing, he turned it over to this water company and then said, wrote me a letter on how he did. I told him how he did.
I mean, you're getting water, Barb, and they're working on
That
it.
still don't help
and-
me. We should have done had it.
I mean, it's,
I mean, you know what?
let Lisa give us an update.
It
She's here
should be
tonight.
against the law for us to have to use water like we got down there. Eat your spigots off and everything else. Now, we need water and we need it bad.
Do you know what, you are at the end of the line, though.
It don't matter.
So you're getting it. Do you know what his projected completion date is? on
Yes,
that?
based upon the status report from September 14th from E.O. Robinson, there are two contractors working on this project at this time. The contractor number one, which is the one that you see on the road digging pipe, there are several things going on simultaneously for the project.
It's where they're digging up, they dig a ditch, put the pipe in, and next thing you know, they're digging it all back up again and doing it again.
I don't know, but all I know on that particular contract, right now, they say as of September 14th, one main crew is working, one additional crew is working on services and tie-ins. And that's causing some confusion. I do know from going to the PSD meeting that there have been phone calls coming in, because it seems pretty random to people that are watching, that they'll start something and then they might move to something else, but they're coming back. Apparently, there's a method to their madness, but I understand that people do get frustrated and call when they think it's coming.
Frustrated, honey, when you get frustrated.
Oh,
you have water.
I'm not denying your frustration level. I can only say what the engineer has reported to
I
us.
dealt, Roberts,
Rick Roberts is the
I
representative.
dealt with him too.
Well, basically, they have listed their substantial completion date is December 29th with a final completion date of January 28th.
See, and we supposed to got it this fall.
The second part of this is also a new tank. And the site work for that, that's another thing that's been going on simultaneously, but maybe people aren't seeing that
Yeah,
as well.
we know there's working on it.
And that started on August 7th, and the site work's nearly complete, and the tank foundation has been poured. What they're looking at for the total project, where they're at on completion, is it's overall 69%.
You know what, isn't it awful that you don't have clean water that you can take a bath? You know, I am tired of this. I've been over here so many damn times. Yeah, you're gonna get water, and we had money to get water in '08. And so they canceled it and went someplace else. They did that twice, and they kept saying, you'll get it for fall. Well, fall comes, and it's been about 5 years now, and we still haven't got it. I could say a lot more here, but I won't. But we need water now. We need water, and that's all. And you need to get them on it. You need to get them on getting us some water.
And you had indicated, yes, one of the contractors has bid other work, which contractors do. And now, have they started that other work? I don't think so.
It was in a paper about it.
But you can get awarded a contract, but it doesn't mean you're gonna start yet. And contractors do that. I mean, that's how they have to always
Yeah,
keep
but
bidding
you
for
know
future
what?
jobs.
We need water bad down there. They just get on it and get it done.
Okay, we have Swanita McComas.
I'm afraid to talk after that. Because mine, I mean, it's totally different. I understand how she feels. I live up Upper Mud, and we have gas, natural gas in our water, but there's no water running up there, so I don't know how she feels. But anyway, my reason for being here is I've had horses my whole life. Anybody knows me a little bit all knows I've had horses my whole life. And we used to have the horse park, whatever reason, on cattle, and just about everybody that I know used to have horses, on past horses. The kids still love horses. Every time we're in a parade or anything, they want to see horses, they want to learn about horses, and there's nobody around. And not that I'm getting old or anything, but I would like to be able to teach the kids what I know about horses. And I have been talking to, over here, just different people and stuff about trying to get the horse park, the land for the horse park. And all I need is the land. I will find different ways. I got volunteers and different people willing to help me and stuff. One, I'm American Indian. I can, try to get my Indian card, or get my Indian card, and try to get some money that way. I'm a Marine, and get some money that way. I've got different ways that I can get it, but I need land to do it with. And since that's already been established, the one good thing about that up there is you have the lake, and you have boating, you have access to boating, you have access to swimming, you have access to fishing, that would bring different people into our community. And it will help, I mean, it not only helps our kids to learn and have something to do besides drugs, it also help the community come in and bring different people in from all over. The internet now, before, no, wasn't that no good up there probably, because, but now the internet, you got people from coming from states to states wanting to camp, wanting to ride horses and stuff. I mean, I watch it all the time on TV, and like I said, I've learned a lot, I'm still learning a lot, still got, and I've got people who's willing to, you know, volunteer, but my main thing is, our kids have nothing to do here, nothing to do but drugs. I've seen it, I've raised 4 kids, the youngest one's just turning 15, I know all her friends, and all they think about is, well, the older kids done it, you know, let's try. That's all they got to look forward to. And having horses, even if they just come up and they learn about horses and they work with horses, horses has a way of helping kids. They help kids, like, especially, I want to work with this handicapped kids who's having trouble in school, having trouble in the community. Because by having responsibility for a horse, you learn responsibility. And one first thing that people don't know that we have here is bullying. Everybody says all kids don't get bullied anymore. Yes, they do. And the kids get bullied because they let other kids bully them. If they learn to be proud about themselves and who they are proud enough to stand up and say, hey, you're not going to treat me this way. And stop the bullying. Bullying causes kids to commit suicide because they feel so worthless from their parents or whoever. Somebody's abused them, you know, or neglected them because their parents is on drugs. I have my grandson because my son and his mom is both on drugs doing rehab now, thank God. But it's been very, very hard. And thank God he's only 3.5. But there's so many kids out there whose family's on drugs. They have nobody. They have no place to go. They have nobody to turn to. I was adopted. I know what it feels like to not be wanted, even though I had great parents. I have great adopted parents. But I know what it feels like to know, hey, your mom, they don't even want you. You're lucky that these people have you. I got lucky. But there's a lot of kids out there who don't have anybody. Nobody that they can say, hey, I needed somebody to talk to. I need somebody to help me. And I know that this is about the horses, but it's also about the kids. Because to me, they go hand in hand. They can help each other. Kids can take care of the horses, and the horses will really help the kids. And bringing this into the community, it'll also bring in more revenue. More people coming here from different places and stuff will help our little community grow and hopefully get better and get stuff done, like our water lines and everything else that we need. I told her I'll be short and sweet, but I'm sorry, when it comes to the kids and horses, I can talk forever. But, you know, I wish y'all to consider giving me a chance and let me use the land up there. However, like I said, I mean, one of the things was I could declare it Indian land. Y'all would have no responsibility, no, if anything happens, whatever, y'all's not responsible for anything. You know what I mean? Give a little bit back to the Indians, because to me, it'd be Indian land and always be there for the horses, the kids, and for everybody. You know, I may be the one running it for now, because I say me, because you get too many people boss, too many chiefs, not enough Indians, that's what trouble comes in. Right now, I want to be chief. I feel like I can't be chief or whatever. But this is something that I can get started, that can go on and help our kids and the future kids. So please give us a chance to try to do
I'll tell you
something.
something, we can't really have dialogue about it. I appreciate you coming, but you're not on the agenda, so we can't really get into it. But we'll put you under unfinished business, and the next meeting we have, I might have some information that will help you. I think we have a place that we can, it's probably been 20 years ago when they had the horse park over there at the dam. My dad was involved in that. You met Sammy Saul, you may know him. So he had went and met with Hobart, him and I think Commissioner McCann, I don't know who, and they kind of set aside some property over there.
Oh, really?
So anyway, I'll pull all that information.
Okay, that would
and-
be great anywhere, because I've been trying to find some, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm not rich. You know, and I'm not the best dresser in the world. I live on a farm, I have horses.
This may be easy. We may be able to help you out.
Hey,
but-
that would be great, because like I said, I've got people willing to help me do the fencing and do stuff, you know, and
I'll go, I think I know where all that stuff's at, and we'll get it all together, and we'll put it on the next agenda, and you can come back, or we'll get it to you after the
Before
order.
the better, I mean, sooner the better for me. I mean,
One of the things, having been around when we had to move the horse park, is the DNR was the reason we had to move it.
Yes.
I mean, they basically said that was their land. It's much the same way as when, we wanted to put the shooting range up there. They were against that too. And I know one of the reasons, the information that she's talking about getting was, related to another site at the Hobart development.
It wasn't, the DNR didn't have it, it was on down.
Right, because I mean, I had, you know, I live not very far from where the horse park used to be.
Yeah.
And, you know, when my dog would get loose and run off, they'd always call me and I'd come and get the dog and things, you know, and it was really a sad situation to have to move those people off that. But we were under the direction of the DNR that we didn't have any right to let you all on there. And that's what we did at that time, just so historically we know what's going on.
Okay, everybody's had different stories, and I know they had to be something come up, you know.
Right, right.
But, well, see, I worked up there at Devon's, as a security guard years back and stuff, and I know that they closed the mines down, they was trying to, they was gonna do something with it, but at that time, they hadn't figured out what they was gonna do. And I thought about that place too, if I couldn't, you know, do something there, but I had no idea who to contact or get hold of anybody about it.
Well, we'll see what we can come up
Hey,
with,
that
and
would be
figure
great.
out, and,
But that would still help, you know,
Right.
around here too, you know.
and actually, I think there might be a little bit of money left in there, I'm not absolutely sure, but I think there is, isn't there? So,
That would be great. I'm gonna start with the crowd and get the kids, you want to look at the kids and say, I wanna learn. You know, and it'd be great. But
well, thank you for
thank you
coming,
all
and
very much.
we'll
And
make
I
a
hope I
note
didn't talk
to,
too much, but
that's
thank
all
you
right. We'll make a note to put it on the agenda so we can talk about it more.
Thank you very much.
Okay, the next up, is the Hamlin Neighborhood Watch. We do have that under discussion, so if you will want me to get Lisa, because she's first, and then we'll come back to this, or do you want to go ahead? Lisa, do you just need a draw down?
first? Do you want to?
Let us do her draw down real quick, and then we'll get to you all, because hers won't take a second. So we have Lisa Wells with Region 2 for a drawdown, and project update. Which we
I
have done.
kind of gave you what I have as far as the status report that's been provided by the engineer. And again, I feel your frustration, but at this point, this is all, I can only deliver what.
Without water, we had a sewer pond in our, when them floods come down in our drill well twice, that's a lot what's the matter with it too.
But hopefully, this thing will be wrapping up, and eventually we can move on with luck to the next phase of the project, because I know that there's still a substantial need in that regard. But with regard to the project, I do have today with me a drawdown with regard to the community development block grant funds. It's been a while since I've come in. I've kind of backed off of those funds for a while now because we were hitting them pretty hard with construction. We've kind of been hitting USDA at this point in
Are
time.
those community block grant, is that the one you have to use, or it goes back, you can't?
Pretty much,
That's-
yeah, with community development block grant funds, with HUD, you have to use it or it goes back. So we'll use it, and we were getting kind of close, so it's kind of holding, but there's some things that we need to move around, because there's some things with the tank USDA will not pay for that HUD will, and so kind of waiting to see when they get to that portion of the project to hit probably a substantial portion of that. We were trying to draw down the rest of the Corps, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers money. We tried a couple of times, it kind of got a little complex. They have a thing called LERDs, which is lands, right-of-way easements. And we have we've been working, we hope to be closing that portion of the funding out next month. I've been working with the Corps very closely with that piece, and basically we've come away dealing with that situation. It's just basically an administrative thing that's not really applicable to this type of grant from them. So hopefully that portion of it will also be closed out, and I can give you an update about that next time. So essentially, I do have a community development block grant drawdown. This is drawdown number 12 for that funding stream. And it's in the amount of $3,906.62. It covers 3 invoices from the Region 2 Planning and Development Council for the months of June, July, and August.
And that was drawdown 12.
Drawdown number 12 for the community development block grant.
And do I have a motion to sign the drawdown and all that. Second that. All in favor, aye.
There's one page that you both would need to sign, I think it's the second one, but then the three are primarily.
I imagine all this rain is kind of put a,
Basically, when they submit their payrolls for the pay-ups for the contractors, there have been some, they have to include inclement weather days with proof of the inclement weather. And there have been some here and there throughout their pay-ups.
is this the only drawdown you have? That's
This is the only drawdown I have tonight for you guys. And one thing too I want to bring up, we were recently contacted by the West Virginia Development Office. The Lower Mud Project has been selected for monitoring. Yay! So, FYI, particularly to Mary and I think, is it now Gina? I'm trying to remember her name over there. I will be pestering you probably over the next 2 weeks for certain things that we need to make sure we have in the file, just copies of things. I think we're getting all the checks, but some bank statements, that kind of thing. Once I kind of delve into it a little deeper. They're planning on coming November 7th and 8th. It's the only project of ours that they're monitoring at this point, so.
Imagine
Yay,
that.
lucky us.
This project.
But just wanted to give a little heads up for when I start calling shortly.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's all I have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, now we have the Hamlin Community Watch. And we have a couple of people signed in. Olive, do you want to start?
Yes.
And we've got you on the agenda, so we can talk a little bit about it.
Well, we want to thank you for letting us come before you to tell you some of our problems. And we're representing the town council, who is trying to do what they can to improve Hamlin. So the things we want, the neighborhood watch at one time was just, we started it to try to find out if there's anything going out for people who's in town and break-ins and things like that. So we just drove around at night to find out if anyone was out. Always, it's got a lot worse than that now because you know someone's out. So with what I'm going to say is just the introduction, and then these other women have something to add to it. So we know that one of the things that would help would be funds to have more police than what we have. We know that's hard for us and it's hard for someone else. If they come in and say, well, why don't you do something? Why don't you hire somebody else? And we know that's not possible with it. So the things we're talking about is some of the situations that's happening, and some people may not know what all's going on in town. But if you drive around and see some of these people out, and you know they're doing what they want to, but you can't do anything about it. So right now, we think we could have more better results if we had the commission and the town council, the state police, the deputies, town police, and our churches. We really need to get churches involved because we have people on here, we're not just interested on getting the druggies out. We need to help our kids that are on drugs and where they need things. So we need everyone maybe to do a task force that we could work on things that would help bring this to Hamlin. So what we want to do is just give you some of the different ways we've talked about this. So I'll let the ladies introduce themselves. You first, Jenny.
I'm on first.
Good evening. I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. I want to thank the commission for allowing us time to speak. My name's Joan Phillips, and I've basically lived in this town my entire life. Since 1980, I was 8 years old when we moved here, and I've seen a lot of changes over that time. But when you have a person like me who is thinking seriously about moving, there's a problem. My roots are here, most of my family is here, but I'd like to bring attention to, there is a growing epidemic, not only in Lincoln County, the tri-state area, West Virginia is bombarded with drugs. And we're not immune to it, and we're just now starting to see kind of like the birthing pains of what is happening to our communities. Individuals who do have an addiction, it not only involves themselves, it involves the family unit and the community, from our courts to child protective service workers, police, fire departments, and it's a strain on resources. There's definitely not enough rehab facilities or even long-term facilities to help this problem. And I'm all for people getting help, but what I'm here to discuss tonight is those that do not want the help and they are turning to crime on the streets to help fund their habits. Some of you know, and some of you may not know, on September 14th, I was almost a victim. Someone opened the back door of my house, and it was between, I was sick, so I was up, I wasn't feeling well. It was between 2:30 and 2:40 in the morning. And there was a weed eater on my back porch, which is an enclosed laundry room. I think that's what they were after. My dog would not let them in the house, thank goodness. Okay, so Vader is going to live forever. But my son went out and he had an unloaded shotgun. And he he told the people, he heard still rustling, and he heard them outside and told them, oh, go on, come in, but I promise you don't want what I have. He turned on the light and he had a gun. And they took off running out from my house through the backyard into Mayor's Lane. So that evening that morning, I called non-emergency 911 and reported that there's a prowler in the area, and also called state police. And I was told there's nobody on duty. That if they come back, that they will try to get somebody out. Well, now I do have a gun, and I keep a gun on me when I'm home. I mean, it's in my pocket because it's not safe. You know, people normally get robbed during the day. This is night. That was a psychopath. They don't care what happens to the person in the home. And so I know, like Olive said, the strains of hiring more police is not possible, but I've done some research. There is federal grant money available, if you all might want to look into that. But what us as Neighborhood Watch have talked about and discussed is some alternatives. Most of the time when the officers do come out and they arrest somebody, our jails are too full and Lincoln County cannot pay or afford to keep them in prison. So we have thought about alternatives that might help. And one of the things is because a lot of times they'll get out and the police haven't even done the paperwork or completed the paperwork regarding the arrest. We hear that all the time. So one of the things that we have discussed and came up with and would like to bring before you is since our current methods are not really working as a deterrent for crime, I'm not talking about bringing back the old days of chain gangs, but in lieu of fines and fees, or vice versa, they could do community service for nonprofit organizations such as churches and anyone else who would want to participate. Bread from Heaven Food Pantry, there's ladies clubs, there's the Community Watch, Neighborhood Watch group. We can monitor your time either in lieu of fines, in what state minimum wage would be, or in hours worked for like say they're sentenced to jail for 30 days, 60 days. They can work that off. And it's not only, while I was researching, it is also in state code that it is possible to do this. So I printed this off today, and it is legal. It's in West Virginia State Code. Another thing that we were talking about too, some of the crime that's going on are bicycle thefts. Lately, there is a lot of bicycles being stolen. And,
Is that, they're saying you're talking, I'm sorry,
Uh-huh.
is that something the judge would have to order?
well, it stays in municipal court is what it would do. It stays in municipal court
So your
according
town-
to the code. Mhm.
What code is it?
It's, code, that's the bicycle code.
You all are
It is,
setting-
62,416.
You all are setting in a kind of unique situation in Hamlin because you do have the town and the.
Right. And I know that
municipalities.
it doesn't just affect Hamlin, it affects all of Lincoln County. But that is something that, it's legal. There's West Virginia State Code on it. Yeah. So that could be something as an alternative for either first-time offenders, multi-time offenders, people that don't have money to pay bail or fines.
And the
Yeah.
judge would still have to order that.
Yeah. Well, what we were talking
Uh-huh.
about is, you know, we do have people that, because it costs us, what, $40-some a day for someone to be fined 50.
Yeah.
We have a program already where we have the nonviolent offenders come and work during the day, picking up litter and things like that. And that's
Okay.
similar to what you're talking about
Okay,
there.
But it does have to be through a judge. The
Right.
judge has to court order them to that.
that's fine.
But since you're
Yeah.
in a municipality,
They
Right,
might be different, yeah, I mean, Judge Hovey doesn't serve it.
right. Yeah, because it said it pertained to a municipal court is where it would stay.
right,
Yeah, that's in the West Virginia State Code. But with the bicycles too, what we thought about, and it would generate a little bit of revenue for the town, like, we already have, the town council has adopted another West Virginia State Code. This one is 17C 1113. And I'll give this to you. It's similar to the laws on the road that at night bicycles, they have got to have headlights or a lamp, and shine so many feet. And so if the police will start writing tickets for those in non-compliance, that could generate revenue for the town.
so has this passed, your town council, this ordinance is passed by the.
Yeah, Trina, yes. And now that's state code, so what the town council passed.
There's a state law on it
There's a
too.
state law,
Right.
yeah, there's a state law on that. But with the bicycles being stolen, we thought about going a step further. Now, believe me, I've researched this, and this is totally new. There's nothing to back this up. Because I've looked, I have really looked and researched. But like, cars have to have registration cards. In the town, we have thought about, for a minimal fee, every bike owner, this is bicycle, not motorbikes, $2, $5, whatever the cost would be to the courts or to this courthouse, have a registration fee for the bike. So when the person is out on their bike, the police or someone can pull them over and say, now, show me your registration card to verify this is your bike. Or they can find these bikes at homes, and if they don't have a registration card for the bike, they can assume probably it was stolen. Because we just had one returned last night because of our chat page. A bike was stolen from a person and they located it. So, and we have a lot of thefts. There was like 3 or 4 lately. And more, right, bicycles. Yeah, bicycles, kids' bicycles. So we had thought about registration cards with like the description of the bike, the person who owns it.
Does the town
I
of
did not.
Hamlin, do they have somebody on duty at night, one of the town police, or they evenings, or?
When I called, they told me there was no night coverage.
Probably
On
hard
the
to hard to
weekend.
get
We do
24/7
have-
coverage, isn't it?
Right.
Justin Rates is doing some nights, I'm not sure, but usually gets off like 4 o'clock in the morning. So, and that's when a lot of these crimes are happening, when they know he is off duty.
Yeah, and they're smart. They have walkie-talkies. They call one another. We've seen them at night while we're out patrolling and looking around. They have walkie-talkies. They've got radios that they call one another. They're smart. The crooks are getting smart. But that was one thing that we had thought about might help also deter theft, is if they could be registered. And I know it takes, like Olive was saying, almost like a village, everybody working together, because we all have the same common interests and goals. We need more rehabilitation centers, we need to deal with the crime that's growing rapidly, and we need all these organizations to start working together. And I think that's where Katie's gonna come in and talk more about a task force that we're wanting to do.
Katie, do you wanna go and talk? I've got some stuff for you, but I'll let you finish and then we'll.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Katie, it's nice to meet you. I see you on Facebook and I now have a face.
You know, I was at a funeral today, and, we went to the viewing last night, and there were several people saying, "Oh, we've seen you on Facebook," and I'm like, okay. I don't know who you are, but okay. Yeah, I'm a little bit vocal. But, you know, getting the information out there, I think that's the most important thing. For one thing, how long do I have to talk? I know that you have other things.
5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay.
As you
Well-
can tell, we don't enforce it. Enforce it,
Okay.
absolutely.
Well, I'm gonna help you out here. I wanna set my clock.
Oh, you don't have to do that.
No, everybody who knows me.
Maybe you should set it then.
Well, I think I've said this before, but anybody who knows my dad, I'm Jack Pepper's daughter. So, but anyway, I'll go by Katie. I'm a little bit.
Could you go ahead and give us your name for the record? So
Yeah.
we record it?
Yeah, I go by Katie, but my name is Catherine Cooper, and I'm an active member of the Hamlin Neighborhood Watch. You've met, or have listened to a couple of our other members, but we do, I'm looking around, I see a few other ones here, and I see a lot of familiar faces, actually. I wasn't anticipating being here. So that puts a little more pressure on me. But anyway, okay, so I'm gonna start my clock here, and I'm gonna try and stay on track here. A little bit, we were kind of a little bit out of order, so I'm trying to kind of regroup here. So I'm assuming that you probably have heard or know what it is that Neighborhood Watch does. I believe that Hamlin, West Hamlin, and I believe Allen Creek area, or maybe Corporal, I believe that's what they
It's
say.
called East,
Yeah.
the East Lincoln Crime Watch,
Yeah.
over that.
I have their information, when they meet and who's involved.
Okay.
I can give you all this. So maybe you would want to attend some of their meetings. and-
Well, I have talked to someone at West Hamlin, but not the other one. I'm not sure if any of them are here this evening.
No.
To be represented.
No, you can't have the name.
We'll still do the parts.
I didn't know, I didn't ask them that, like, I didn't know if it's still going
I
on.
know there's 2 or 3 still doing it there. I
What's
don't
his
know.
name, the teacher used to do it, what's his name? Lucas.
Anyway, we're cutting in on your 5 minutes.
Sorry, yeah, I'm sure.
Anyway, I'm still trying to regroup here. So there are at least 2 or 3 other, groups like we are, but I know that Lincoln County is not as populated as some of the bigger communities, but it's so spread out. Hamlin's a little condensed, then you have West Hamlin, they have their little pocket, but then when you're, talking about more rural areas, they don't have an organization really, but they can, have people like what we do. We have our meetings, we try to keep people informed, we try to encourage people to come to the meetings. Sometimes, we have a lot, and sometimes, it's difficult for people to get there. It's a busy time in the evenings. But, they want to be involved and commit in some way, but sometimes it's hard. But we have our members who, they take their time, they take their money, for gas and patrol the area. We're not police officers, we're well aware that we're not. We don't have the same privileges to, enforce anything.
Or
But
intervene.
exactly, we can't intervene either. Sometimes we would like to, but we know the laws and we know what our limitations are. So we're not vigilantes. We don't go out there and start tearing up the place and run them out of town. I feel like that sometimes, especially when, you know, people like my friend Joan, and other people that I know have been violated. I mean, it's a very, very scary thing to happen, you know, someone breaking in on you in the middle of the night. And you don't feel safe after that. She probably felt reasonably,
with me all
yeah,
the time.
most people probably feel
Yeah.
reasonably safe,
Yeah. If
Until it
they're in my
happens to
home,
me.
I'm gonna kill them.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'll be all, just call me Maybell.
Let's not bring my Aunt Mabel into this. But yeah, anyway, I'm getting off track here. So, you know, we're aware of the things that go on. We try to get the information out there to people, but for whatever reason, people might hear about it and they're aware, but they're not really understanding how big of an issue it is. It's not just Hamlin.
No.
I want to speak for the others around the county, but, you know, the others that, you know, can't be here.
And it
They
didn't
most
become real
everyone
to
here.
me until it happened to
Yeah.
me.
And we don't want that to have to happen. We don't want people to be, you know, kind of in the dark. Well, not in the dark when they hear things, but we don't want them to feel like that it doesn't affect them until it actually does happen. So that's a big concern. So, you know, we try to kind of fill in for the police officers, but as it's been said, there's not enough coverage. There's just not. We have 2 police officers. One of them, I think he mostly works at the high school. Justin, he's new, and he's gonna be going into the academy, I believe, in January. So he'll be, you know, not being able to patrol while he's doing that. So we'll essentially only have 1 full-time officer, and part of that time he's with the high school. I think we have 1, maybe 2 part-time deputies that also come out. But I don't know what their hours are or anything. And that's another thing, we don't know when they're out unless something happens and they get called and then the people are told there's no one out. And I know that, you know, there's state police, their office is right here in town, but this is a spacious county. It may not be highly populated, but if they're on you know, end of the county and
Are you all
something happens.
calling- I mean, I know that you started this, but I don't really know how far along you are with it. Do you, I mean, I think you have the signs for your cars and things so you can be identified. Do you have that?
We do.
Yes. I do.
But one
Yes.
concern, and I've had issues myself with being followed home, when they figure out who you are and they figure out what your car is.
They're in my house, they're
It's,
We have, Alan Holder is with us tonight. He's our 911 director, Office of Emergency Services. I mean, we didn't really know what you all wanted, so we were just trying.
okay, I'm getting to that.
Yeah.
I'm getting a little off track here. I wasn't sure if you were familiar exactly with what we do. We hear complaints that, oh, well, they think they're the police. I'm just trying to, you know, bury that misconception. We know who we are and what we do. We know what we're allowed to do.
So, you know, you're out, you're watching, you see something that's, you think.
I'm gonna immediately call non-emergency 911 or the state police and let them know.
So you
what's
just
going on.
call the because that's what you need to do. Everything needs to be through the 911 center. And then they will dispatch. You know, there may not be anybody in Hamlin
Right.
on call, but they'll know who is and they can get somebody.
Well, I mean, that's what we do. We're the eyes and ears. And some people, they'll message us because they're afraid, you know, to call police or, you know, publicly say that they've seen something. So that's kind of what we do also. We're kind of the liaison between, you know, the people who are having the issues and law enforcement. Because they're just afraid. They're afraid if they say something. But what I'm supposed to be talking about, and I can sit here all day and talk. I love to talk. But what we have really been talking about a lot in our meetings, there's such a disconnect between like the law enforcement and the other agencies, you know, that have access to resources. I'm not even aware of like who to call if there's a homeless person that they're camping out in someone's backyard. They may not be, you know, have any criminal intent or anything like that, but somehow they've showed up here. Either they burn their bridges with someone who they're related to here, or they just came here to stay with someone and get kicked out, or, you know, whatever the case may be. So it's like we don't even know who the resources are. So if other people come into contact with someone and they find out that they've had some kind of issues but they don't know where to go for it. And I think that, like, law enforcement oftentimes, I don't know, I mean, this is just me talking to someone, a law enforcement officer myself. Sometimes they aren't aware of exactly what to do. I know that they work closely with, like, DHHR. I'm not sure how close they work with, like, shelters and, like, domestic violence branches. I'm sure that they, do contact them. But I feel like there needs to be, I don't know if you want to call it a task force, because sometimes that has a connotation of just strictly being about a crime. There's other issues going on in this county, not just the criminal, who are doing drugs, but we have people who have addiction issues. We have people who, for whatever reason, they come here. We see a lot of people. It just seems like in the past few months, we have had this influx of people. Nobody knows who they are. No one knows how they're tied to this county, or even just to this town. It's concerning because you see people, they're converging on us, it feels like. So some of them, they may be here for drugs. They may be here for, they have family here, or just come here for migrating. We hear a lot of that going on in bigger communities like Charleston and Huntington, but it's coming here also. I don't know if it's because they're being driven out of those communities and they come here, or what the issue is. But some of them, they're homeless. They may not be drug addicted. They may not be, distributing drugs, but they're here. And, we've had an issue with people camping out in people's backyards. We've had people, breaking into homes that they're either vacant or they're dilapidated. They're not, even worth living in. That's a dangerous situation. That's dangerous not just for them, because there's no running water. There's probably not any electricity. So now the cooler months are coming. They're probably gonna, make a fire. So they could get hurt. It could cause another house to catch on fire. That puts those people at risk. Firefighters, you have to come and respond to it. They're put at risk. It's a sanitary issue if there's not running water. That's not a good situation. What we want to do is we want to have like a task force or a committee that we have law enforcement officers who work with the magistrates, the court system, the judge, circuit judge, DHHR.
It sounds a lot like you might need to get in touch with the prevention coalition.
Well, yeah, that was another I was going to mention. I've gone to a couple of their meetings.
Yeah.
We have
Also, do
someone
you know
here.
Tammy Atkins with FRN? Isn't she with FRN out of Branches? Tammy Atkins, what she with now?
Yeah.
She
She's
has a
with the
book
coalition.
of all kinds of resources, names, numbers. She does it every year, or she did. I mean, she used to do it every year. And it's got Huntington numbers and everybody, like homeless shelters, shelter mission, anything. In a big.
FRN still updates that.
Okay, yeah, they've got a nice book with all kinds of people's names, numbers. Where you could get a hold of people that
Okay,
way.
if people knew to get hold of her, that's what I'm talking about, like the task force. So we get these people all together, not just law enforcement. We're talking about who you were talking about,
Tammy, yeah.
Tammy. We have, let's see, we also have drug court. I know that we have drug court in this county, but some people opt not to do drug court, and I don't know that you can force them to do drug court.
Well,
The judge
I
can.
sat on the drug court, and a lot of it, if they don't participate in drug court, they go back to jail.
Okay.
Right.
So, and that's a big incentive for them. And we also do random drug screenings on those people all the
Okay.
time.
But, let me interrupt you a second. If they don't choose drug court and they go to jail, how often is it that they stay in jail?
Well, for me, it's taken a long time because we're paying the bill all the time. And we've seen a big increase in that too.
Okay.
In addressing these problems, and I know these problems have come up before, I mean, across this whole county.
Yeah, it's not new.
And, no, it's true. It's just a matter of the magnitude of it.
Right.
When you're looking at what these people are doing with and I deal with drug addiction every day in my medical practice. and how it affects the families. And, you know, and I know a lot of our families that grandmas are raising grandkids now, and they really are not healthy enough to even do that because the mom and dad are in jail or restricted from having access to those kids.
And now we have, I work for Child Protective Services. Sometimes now grandparents are not, it's not, we can't place with grandparents and because they are not, what would you say? Yeah, not appropriate, that's it, thank you. They're not appropriate. We're looking for great-grandparents, aunts, uncles. If that doesn't help what happen, then there's foster homes or group shelters.
Do you all know Chrissy Atkins back there?
Uh-huh.
Okay, cause she's on the, you're on the coalition, aren't you? That's, I mean, this sounds like exactly what you all do, isn't it? The group of
Law
everybody with
enforcement
different.
involved in it too, not just that part of it.
It is what you try to do, though, yes, okay.
But, I mean, there's a bigger issue
You know,
going on here.
we filed a suit against some of the major pharmaceutical companies last year, I think it was. And that's
I saw that
in
one.
Cleveland now. And it's before a federal judge. And one of the things that if we did win any kind of a settlement from them, was one of the things that I had talked to Ferris Burton and to Mr. Haggard, the mayor over here about, is some of that money is being directed to the individual municipalities and to watch groups and things of that nature so they can be more effective. You know, we don't know if that's going to happen, but that was one of the reasons we did file that suit, was because we know the impact it has on this community, on all these communities, especially in southern West Virginia. And the only way you can do that, you have to work together like we talk about, coordinate your activities. But, you know, you have to have funding from somewhere too. Back when we had county-wide watch groups, we were also paying their gas, but we also had, you know, $800,000, $1 million of coal severance money then that we don't have now. And I think that's what a lot of they were very active and they were very effective too. But it was the neighborhood watch group. Instead of combining these services, which is you're going to have to do now, you're going to have to be able to coordinate your activities and things of that nature to get it to work. But there has to be funding somewhere, and you know you can look for different grants and things of that nature. But the commission, when it did seek to file suit against the major pharmaceutical companies, it was our intention to help get that money and divide that money up with the municipalities to help them with the problem. We have the same problem in rural areas too. You know, I mean, my farm's been broken into multiple times, and until I put up surveillance and raised Rottweilers, you know, I had trouble until then. But I own a place at Branchland, that I stay at sometimes. And I had a guy early one morning come walking out of the woods behind my house with just a pair of jeans on, no socks, no shoes, no shirt. And he was asking me which way to go to Branchland or Midkiff. And he lived right below my house. And I followed it down there and seen he lived in the house. You know, this is happening everywhere. And the advantage that Hamlin does have is the proximity of the people that live to each other. I mean, they live close enough to each other to watch out for each other. You know, back on the ridges where I live, the nearest house is probably a mile away. And so that kind of takes that out of the situation. The coordination of people living together is going to be the main thing as a deterrent to the type problems we talk about as far as burglaries and people stealing stuff, you know, and things of that nature. But you got to start somewhere, you know. And I think doing what you're doing is what you have to do. It's going to be a constant battle till they take the drugs off the streets, you know. And you know, I'm a physician, and I have to use medicine sometimes to treat those things. But there's too much on the street. If they didn't have access to it, it's just like taking Claritin D or some of the decongestants and making people sign for it and monitoring that. That's cut down quite a bit of what we saw as far as meth production. And we still have it. And we have relationships with Kentucky and Ohio where if people go across the state line to buy these things, they can report it to our board of pharmacy. So we actually can monitor those type of things. But those type of things, what you got to do, you're going to have to eventually take those drugs off the street. They're going to have to be off the street. I practiced 15 years before long-acting opiates come out. And people that got hurt, you could give them a few Tylenol with codeine and set their fracture, and they get better. And when you have people on those medicines for 3 to 4 months, long-acting opiates, they're addicted. You know, their fractures heal, but they're addicted. And that's where one of the problems that we really haven't addressed to the point we should have addressed. But we've got to do it from both ends. The physician's got to do it, the community's got to do it, law enforcement has got to help, and I'm surprised they don't have someone. I know we have, the last time I talked to the state police, they had either 14 or 16 troopers in this county.
I'm not sure that they still.
I mean, and so.
I don't think they ever keep anyone covered. I mean, they have somebody on call that they'll call out, but nobody just sits down there at the detachment waiting for a call. They don't do that.
We have 911 that takes those calls.
Sure, that's what I mean, and they'll dispatch, they'll call somebody out, right out. I mean, they'll call, somebody who's on call, they'll call them to come out if it's a major emergency, but they don't sit down there.
If there's no law enforcement on duty in the county, then the state police has someone on call.
That'll come back.
And it's transferred to the sergeant in Huntington, who makes the decision on whether to call someone out or let that person take the call the next morning when they come on duty.
Right.
I do know that they have been keeping someone out later at night. You know, it used to be they'd go in at midnight or 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock, but I think it's much later at night where we're very close to 24-hour coverage. It may not happen every night, but they're getting a lot closer to having somebody out.
Right.
And no, they don't necessarily sit in the detachment, but you know, if you have somebody here in the detachment, you have an issue in Parks, and you still got a 45-minute response, or 30 minutes to Allen Creek, and then just as sure as you're at Allen Creek finishing up a call, you've got one in Harts come in. So it's a big, big county to respond across with lights and sirens. It doesn't matter how bright the lights are and how loud the siren is, it still takes a long time to get the Harts.
I do think with the group we'll have tonight here and the people you have involved, that you're heading in the right direction with this. You know, this situation didn't happen overnight, like he said, and we can't fix it overnight. But, you know, like he said, back in the day, the commission was able to give out some money to the community watches. Now we're just, you know, in a situation where we can't. I mean, we've had to cut all of our offices and, as you know, and everything. Hopefully we can get
Yeah,
lines
we're
out.
in a situation now where our jail bill's what, Russ, 50, 60,000?
60,000 a month.
60,000 a month, and we can't even make that payment. We can't make the payment for a jail.
But, you know, anything that we can do, I've got a lot of information that I've got together that I thought might be helpful, and I'll give that to you all, and if we can help you facilitate anything, if you want to.
Excuse me, we have just one more.
Okay.
I think her time went off.
I don't know, 10, 20 minutes ago, maybe.
Trina, you want to talk?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I can sit up here and
I
have a
know
lot,
you
y'all
did.
want to tell me.
Katie, come up sometime and we'll
Okay,
talk
that,
about
I would love to do that. Might wanna bring a snack. I don't know, I'm like confused.
Did we mess you up, Katie?
No.
Anything else you want to add? Just-
No, the order that we were planning didn't go that way.
Who was gonna go first?
I would, whatever. We would be here even longer probably if that started, so it was a good thing.
Well, I'm Trina Barrett, and I'm on the town council and also on the Animal Neighborhood Watch. And I think what Katie was getting into was, we wanted like the law enforcement and DHHR and different groups like the Drug Coalition and all these groups to get together. It'll take all of us to get together and work on this. It's just not one small group of people. And like Alan Holder was just talking about, we need officers, if we could get it scheduled, that somebody is on duty all the time. I don't know if the state police, the deputies, and the town all work together, but it would be nice if they could work together, that somebody would be on duty. And I don't even know if that's possible, but that's one of the things that we talked about. But we've talked about trying to do different solutions, and I think Joni talked about the bike, getting the bikes registered. We talked about that at the last town council meeting. But I live on a very active street in Hamlin. The whole block, from the 100th block to the 400th block is active drug street. But I'm within 2 blocks of 5 very active drug houses. I'm very concerned about it. I get up at 5:15 in the morning and I'll see people out walking, and I'm scared. I'm scared to walk from my house to my car and see all the people walking around the town. I'm just scared, you know? So we need help from you all. I mean, I don't know how, we need a group effort, but it's very scary in the lower end. We got this one lady over here, she has her 2 grandchildren living with her. They stole 2 of the bikes off her and tried to steal a scooter the other night. Another guy, they stole gasoline. I don't know where he stole it from, the car or mower, or where he stole it from, but that's everyday thing that's going on in Hamlin. Every day somebody is getting something stolen from them. And these adults that's riding around their 20-inch bicycles or kids' bicycles, so they've been stolen off kids in our community and riding them around. So, let's see. Now, we now have dealers in Hamlin, homeless, and prostitution now. So that's another thing that Hamlin's picked up on. So I don't know if you're aware of that or not, but it's been going on lately in the last month or so. So, I mean, it's not getting better, it's getting worse. It's getting worse. I don't know what's going to be next, but that's some of the things that's going on in this town, and we need to wake up and get everybody involved in this community, or it's going to be worse than Huntington. We got some people that's doing drug recovery. It's great. I hope they all get recovered and get off drugs. But the people that's not, that's the people that we're worried about in the town of Hamlin. The things that's going on.
I don't know if you all, I just left the Methodist Church where they were having their community of hope meeting. They're going to have an event on the 27th. Did you all know about
Yes.
that? Yes. And I think DHHR, Ruth and them, they chime in, and some other groups were going to have booths set up for information.
Yeah,
And
that's
that might be a
great.
good
That's
place to
great.
come
That
for
is
everybody.
great. But there's some people that's not going to be going to these meetings and not going to be recovering and accepting people. Those are the people that we have to worry about. The people that's walking around that probably will never be to these meetings.
door, and they're doing that all over town.
Can I speak as a citizen? And I happen to be his wife, but, it starts with, I think your municipal police, your town police. JJ has, I'm not saying he's got rid of it all over in West Hamlin, but he has straightened her up over there. They go around Long Branch to come around from him.
You're
now.
exactly
Or
right.
they
I wish
come
we
down
had more
1 mile.
JJs in the
Yeah,
town of
they come down
Hamlin.
1 mile to go away from him. Now, I know I'm his wife and I'm not his side, but, he did it by himself. Now we've got Eddie Baker
I wished
out
I
there.
was deputized and I
We've got
could do
Eddie
it. I
Baker
would
there
get out
now.
there and arrest all of them too. I'd follow
And
them
when
over
they said the
down.
other day about, people coming out, I told them, like, you all hold the line there, don't let them in on time. I don't,
But
I
Mary,
just
what we
think,
want is to how did he do it? So the
he
rest
worked
of it
his
can
tail
share.
end off all of them, he
Yeah.
worked hard to do it. He,
Yeah, but-
like the bicycle, you said a bicycle was stolen?
Well, this is what has happened with the town of Hamlin.
Well, I just think he chased down a bicycle the other day.
I
He pinned it- he went
I
out
understand he
there,
does a
went
great
out
job.
to
I
find
mean,
the
I wish we
bicycle.
had all of them like JJ
Yeah,
Napper,
and
but
took
we
his
don't.
bicycle back to a kid just the other day. So
But we
I-
don't. And since we started complaining about this town council, our police officers has stepped up
Good,
and started
yeah.
stopping people.
That
You know,
is
we're
good,
doing,
yeah.
we're
I
doing
think
much
it
better.
starts
We
to
got a lot
start
of work to do,
Yeah.
you know.
There's so much of it. We're a small town, and we cannot handle the influx of people.
Yeah.
I mean, they're coming from somewhere. We don't know where. Right now, it doesn't matter. We just want something done. And we're not asking you to give Hamlin Neighborhood Watch
We don't want no
money.
money.
No, we don't want.
We want a group.
Yeah.
We want us all to come together to help the problem.
We want to find out some of your answers, what we're doing for it. In other words, Lee and I are driving through town and we see one here on a bicycle, looks suspicious. We can't stop and say, what are you doing?
No, I wouldn't.
See, we
I-
can't.
I know a lot of this
What
is the
can we
town.
do?
It's in the town of Hamlin. But there's also, this is the county seat, okay? And there's state police officers here, there are deputies here. It seems like somebody else could do something to help us. I mean, they're drug tasks in Boone County, Logan County. Oh, I don't know if they come to Lincoln County or not.
They're part, we have officers on those task force as well. And I
I
do
mean,
know
do they
that-
ever come to Hamlin? Do they ever
Well,
do
well,
any investigations or anything
I
in town
can't
Hamlin?
divulge everything he tells me, but I will say when he got that 320 Xanax the other day, there were bigger people watching, looking at that, and he interrupted their
Yeah, I don't know what it takes. If you can't get the people on one street,
Well, some of the
I
higher
mean, I don't know
extent
what
ones
it
look
takes to
real
get-
big, you know, you gotta have a big one for them.
What the problems?
Well, and I know too, if you need more people, I've looked at online, there is federal grant money for hiring
But
more
like-
local and state police plus
So many
equipment.
people can't do that.
That's available for the 2018-2019 year from the government.
It was
So
just brought to
that's-
my attention today that U.S. Attorney Mike Stewart is going around doing like town halls, kind of in conjunction with the West Virginia Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition. And of course, he's going to be all around us in Capital County on the 2nd, Logan County on the 16th. I thought I would maybe try to have our sheriff or myself get a hold of him and see if he could come here. And this is the federal money, I understand it, and that they're going around and talking about how to get and, or just kind of like a town hall to get people's.
Yeah, that's what we're trying
Yeah.
to decide.
I have those dates and stuff too, if you all want them, but we are gonna try to get a hold of him and see if that he can come here and.
I just get mad because walked out a couple Sundays ago outside my house, heard the dog barking. I go out there, and they're all sitting on the porch doing drugs right in my face, right 10 yards. It's just.
We're just so frustrated, and, I mean, the people that have, drug addiction, we're not saying that they're bad people. We're not saying that, oh, we just, need to lock them all up. That is not the solution. These people, they're good people, they came from good families, they have people who love them. It's just unfortunate that they fell into that, and it's so hard to get out of it.
Yeah,
They
nobody wants
need help,
that.
so putting them in jail is not the answer. A lot of times, they can find drugs in jail. They're not gonna get sober there. They're not going to, it's not gonna make a long-lasting effect. And sometimes even, going through a treatment facility doesn't stick the first time. They need the support of an entire community, not just their family or the people who are, directly affected by it. We all need to get involved. And that's what we were trying to talk about, the coalition. Individual people don't know where all these resources are. If we had, officers, if we had DHHR, if we had the coalition, the prosecuting attorney, all these things, we have to have some alternatives, because putting them in jail isn't going to help them. The ones that are committing a lot of crimes, some of them are not even using drugs. They may be dealing the drugs, but they're not actually the ones that are using. They're not the ones that are addicted, that need those kind of resources available to them. So, if we had this task force together, I don't know how we would get it together. If we would just, somebody would have to, take the bull by the horn, so to speak, and take initiative and do it themselves.
Do a public meeting.
Exactly. I'm all for it. I'm all for, calling around, doing whatever it takes to get people to just come together, to figure this thing out together, because this is a multifaceted problem. It's not just drugs. It's not just crime. We have homeless people. We have people who come in here, they don't have anywhere to go. And we don't have any resources here to help them. We need to find a way to develop resources here. We can't just depend on, we'll take them to a shelter in Huntington or Charleston. They're overrun. They have other counties, just like ours, who are trying to find the same kind of help for them. So, I don't know what the answers are, but I think if we could get enough people together who have the knowledge, the experience, and brainstorm, and just have like monthly meetings or something. I don't know.
Because it is getting bad, it's a daily thing. I've even installed numerous lights outside my house and cameras now. And it's still terrifying, like Trina said. I keep my gun on me when I go in the door. And this is Hamlin. It used to be Mayberry, but it's not anymore. And it goes on daily. And we need you all to help us, to help this community.
John, did you want to say something?
I'm John Smith. I'm the new Lincoln County Prevention Coordinator. We're having a coalition meeting, ladies, 19th, Friday at noon at M&R Restaurant. So Katie and Trina and Olive. Well, I need you guys, 19th of this month. It's on a Friday at noon, so all of you that can get there, we need to build this up. We need to work hand in hand. You guys, were you referencing Mike Stewart?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I was at that meeting at the Holiday Inn in Martinsville Tuesday evening, 19th at noon. I can get a hold of Tim White from Prestera tomorrow and see if I can get that scheduled if you
Oh,
want
that
to.
would be great.
I'll try and do that, and I can get a hold of you guys here at the courthouse, let you know what I find out.
Trina, anything that we can do, if you want to have it here, or want us to kind of facilitate it, we can have Lincoln over to the drug court. She's got all kinds of resources, doesn't she?
Yeah.
And to help you, I mean, anything that we can do, I mean, we understand your concerns over.
We just,
I know, it's, but you're heading, I do think that you've got a good group, you're in a good position. You know, a lot of you are on the town council here, you're in good positions to make this be a positive thing. Like she said, over at West Hamlin, they have a good crime watch over there. You know, it's the crime watch and the police, the town police, and, you know, I think just the presence of it. And if people know, and I like that you're moving the cars around.
yes, there's one in front of my house.
That was a
I don't
good
think it's
idea.
working, but it's in front of my house.
It worked to start with. Now
Yeah.
people are getting onto it.
It's not moving it quick enough.
But anyway.
Well, thank you for listening.
Oh, you're well. Thank you all for coming. It's nice to have people. We usually have Bertha. No offense, Bertha. Sometimes it's just
Bertha
us
and Sean.
Yeah.
I just want to make one comment, you know, I don't recommend shooting people, but I do recommend carrying your gun if you're threatened. I mean, if you feel threatened, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. You know, in the state of West Virginia, we have, what they call it, the castle law.
Yeah.
And people, once, you know, and I see these people a lot, I see these people that come in seeking drugs all the time and things, but once they know there's a consequence for what they do, even if one finds out, the rest will know about it.
Right.
So, you know, you have every legal right to protect you and yours.
Well, if they come in, I'll try to shoot them in the leg, but I'm not promising anything.
Now, I will tell you, my family always says, if you're gonna shoot them, they can't never say nothing against you, if you're in the right place, so.
Anyway, after he said that.
You know, honestly, I shouldn't be at that point.
Oh, I agree.
Honestly, I should not be at that point in this town.
But we want, he
Yeah.
said that, and I'm gonna say, I want you
Yeah.
all to be safe when you're out there too.
Yeah.
You know, be vigilant and watch, but don't put yourself in a situation
never,
either.
never.
Like, we want you all to be safe.
Never. If I see something happening on Walnut Street, I'll wait till I'm at the Maple and I'll call it in or something. Because if they see you doing something like that, you're just opening up yourself for something bad to happen.
And a lot of them do carry guns.
Maybe you have,
Yeah, they do.
y'all have meetings?
Yeah, do you
Yes.
meet regular, what?
Well, we try to meet once a month, but sometimes we'll have special meetings, like we were trying to get ready for this meeting today. I think we've been talking about having like another meeting like midday, because there's a lot of people who, they have a lot of activities going on in the evening, you know, baseball games or football games, supper, yeah. So we've had some people that have approached me and I think Trina about having alternative meetings so that more people can come, like maybe a weekend. I mean, if it's just a one-time a month thing, then hopefully they would be able to.
We don't have a set schedule.
No.
We
Yeah.
did have, yeah.
We should.
We need to.
It happened on Mondays at 6 o'clock, because I know I fly trying to get there.
Mary just made us, she's right about this, that the Drug Prevention Coalition is really great.
It's what,
That's where you all.
It's
yeah, it's what
diverse
you're
already.
saying, yeah, it's what you're wanting, but it's already there. I mean, it really is. It's
I
got a lot of.
have attended a meeting there. I was
Yeah.
gonna go to this last one.
Maybe that's something they can expand upon, sending invites out to law enforcement.
Yeah, 'cause
They've got
it's-
me in training at Camp Dawson, I've been there once, going again in like 7, 8 days. And it's all about coalition building
Yeah.
and working with all the community and churches, getting everybody involved. We gotta have committees and subcommittees. We need to build this thing up so that we're all big corporations call it synergy.
Right.
And you just, the more we've got, there's strength in numbers.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
You know,
It really is.
working with them, working with law enforcement,
Mhm.
just working together, just getting people involved.
Well, we've got to have data, there's a lot of work behind this. We've got to have a community assessment, I've got to get together, trying to get a grant to the Drug-Free Communities federal grant. It's a $125,000 grant, and that's a 12-month goal of mine. Actually, I'd love to do it for about 6, but that's part of the CADCA training that I'm going to get that grant, and get this money going in this county for the very things we're talking about.
You may want to think about maybe inviting fire departments to.
Absolutely.
They're sprinkled even throughout the county.
Absolutely.
One-
EMS,
One thing that one of the ladies mentioned earlier was that some of these people are carrying radios and scanners and guns and so forth. We recognized, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago, that sometimes things that were being said on the radio were being picked up by people who didn't need to hear what was being said. And we applied for a grant. We were successful in getting that grant. And over the last few months, we have been switching out radios in several of the law enforcement vehicles in this county. And that will give them the capability to have an encrypted channel. So that if they're going to discuss drug activity, if they're going to discuss something that they don't want the general public to know about, you know, I used to joke and say that people in this county, one of the first gifts that their family gave them was a scanner and a CB radio. And I honestly think that was true. And often the people that are doing doing the bad things have better equipment and sometimes listen to what's going on. So hopefully by the first of the year, that project will be completed. We will have encryption for all law enforcement. And no, it's not so that everybody can't hear what's going on, but it's so that people that have scanners that are listening to what law enforcement is doing won't be able to be one step ahead. So we are aware of the scanner issue and the radio issue, and we're trying to work to beat that. I don't want to give all the way, I don't want to give all the secrets away, but certain times GPS trackers are put in drug shipments as they get moved around to certain places so that they can be caught. And we've got a couple documented cases here within the tri-state area where people had robbed stores or people had picked up drugs, and as soon as they were fixed on their location and it went out on the police scanner, the shipment stopped moving and stuff got chucked over guardrails. So based upon what we've seen, it's not just a problem here, but all of these drug people are listening to what we're saying from our 911 perspective, and we are trying to deal with that. So don't think we're trying to keep you from knowing what we're doing, we're just trying to keep the people that don't need to know from knowing.
And there are a lot of grants, I've looked online, and there are a lot of good grants out there that help with this stuff. They're for new equipment, for law enforcement, and up into including their salaries, and it's there. But it's, I'm sure, limited, but it's federal money. If you all knew some people who could write grants and research it could help.
Daryl Baker just got a $200
You know, we made a comment a while ago about the increase in the vagrancy and things like that. One of the reasons is, if you notice, some of the changes they made in Charleston and Huntington as far as what's good. So I would encourage, when we do work on this, we do a county-wide.
Yes.
So that they know Lincoln County's not a place to go to when you get run out of Huntington or out of Charleston.
I think we didn't, my fault, didn't stress enough that we're not talking about just animal neighborhood watch. This is a county-wide thing. It's not new, we know that, but the increase has been just exponential. It just seems like, the past year, I think even probably the past few months, we have just seen an explosion. We don't know why, if they're being run out from other communities.
Or they see this as a safe zone because it's a target.
Yeah, there's not enough coverage. they can get by with it, but I just wanna make it clear that we're not here just for Hamlin. We're here for the entire county because it's a county-wide issue. And we know it's not gonna go away soon, but the sense of urgency from the community members, because they're getting broken into. They're having things stolen. And we're just to the point where we're so afraid that something really tragic is gonna happen. More people are, you know, seriously, they need to get involved. They don't have to patrol. They don't, you know, have to do the things that we do, but just being vigilant, being aware of their surroundings, looking out for each other. I mean, that's basically what Neighborhood Watch is. Everybody can do that.
I got involved with this group because Katie's my niece. And I live out. Hamlin's my town. I can walk from my house to the town of Hamlin in 5 minutes. But I live out in the country on not a through road. I have good neighbors on one side, and I have really good neighbors and big farm on the other side. And I have not seen the things that have been going on here until I got kind of involved with her and talking with her about these things. So I started coming to these meetings when it was just Hamlin. And I said, I know I'm not a member of the town of Hamlin, but Hamlin's my town. And I think that's the way a lot of people feel who live 2, 3, and 4 miles outside of town, any town, West Hamlin, Hamlin, whatever. If everybody in the county navigates to a town somewhere of some kind, you know. And so no matter what town we have a community watch group in, it's gonna cover those people that live 2, 3, and 4 miles out. So no, this is a countywide effort, and that's what we're trying to I can't keep saying we. I've only been involved in this like 6 weeks, but I own it. But what we would like to see happen is that we reach out a little bit further all the time, and by getting some of these other organizations, the magistrates, the court system, the law enforcement officers, the churches, especially the churches. Has anybody looked to see how many churches we have around here?
A lot. 10
Yeah.
pages.
Swing a cat. Swing a cat. You hit the church.
And so we needed people, even our own people, to go visit these churches, get in touch with the pastors of the churches, or I know Olive does it with the Methodist Church because that's her church, but there are a lot of other churches around who don't know anything about this kind of stuff. All those kinds of organizations. Everybody is used to the official or government organizations handling everything. This can't be a government only handled operation. It's got to be community centered, and everybody's got to be involved from, you know, one old lady who lives out in the country, another old lady who lives in town, to, you know, the law enforcement, the heads of organizations. I mean, everybody needs to be involved at some point. So, no, this was not supposed to be just it started out as a town of Hamlin, and right now the town of Hamlin is a big issue.
Thank you all for coming. Katie, if there's anything you want us to help you facilitate, Trina, let me know. Mary's here, and we'll do whatever we can to help you. I know Lakin down at the drug court was gonna call, she had a list, I think she got from the Lincoln Journal, and was gonna call all the churches in the county and invite them to this, community of hope thing on the 22nd. So, I'm gonna try my best to be there. I think that's gonna be a great thing with a lot of different people. They're trying to get somebody from the health department, the director of EMS, who else did they, you were there, help me, but different people to come, not just churches and not just substance abuse things, but different, you know, resources. I think they're from CPS and okay, well, thank you all.
If I hadn't talked so much, we would have all been out of here.
That's all right. Okay, but thank you, and keep our ideas in mind.
Not her, my sister. This is my daughter. Oh, I've had her for, how many years? Oh, yeah. We still have a meeting going. Hold on just a second. We got a meeting. Sorry. We still got a meeting going. I've been.
I wouldn't be spreading that around much.
We've got a meeting. We're still going. One of the guys.
She talks, but I
Okay. We don't have anything else, we don't meet again until November 1st at 6. Oh. You come to the election.
No, it's all right.
Thanks for what?
The election.
She tested and said, like,
15th is early voting, is graduation day. Parents, yeah.
Sean, do you have all that?
Yeah. Early voting, October 24th, November 3rd.
If I can get it.
Election day, 6th. So all before the next meeting.
So,
If I can get my school. These contacts, either.
Yes, well, just,
Him, talk to you.
extension 221, call here.
I'll get back to you tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn until the November 1st? I'll second that. All in